This week, we're talking board games, new miniatures, and new contrast paints. I'm so hyped. Let's go ahead and get into this week's hobby news. I'm Angela. Now let's get started. All right, we're starting with the big news this week because gosh darn it, I was completely wrong with that trailer from Citadel Color, and I have never been more happy to be wrong in my life. We are getting a whole new range of contrast colors, specifically 25 new colors, and frankly, all of them delight me. There are a number of them that really stand out to me, however, so I am going to gush about them a little bit here. First of all, we have a ton of new blues in this range, and I am loving seeing that because currently, as contrast paint stands, the blues are my least favorite. I have the most complaints about them. Some of the colors just really don't work well. I'm looking at you, ultramarine blue. I really don't like that particular color. So I'm really happy to see a lot more blues coming out of this line. We also are getting a lot more greens, which is going to work great for both my Death Guard army as well as some new opportunities with my Orc army. So I'm very excited for those as well. We also are getting a variety of new yellows, purples, and reds, all of which look wonderful. The reds in particular, I'm very excited to see their consistency because I really like Blood Angels red and Flesh Terrors red already. They're just vibrant, the pigment's great, the flow is excellent. So I'm hoping these lighter, brighter reds are going to have the same consistency. As for the purples, holy cow, I'm so glad to have more purples, especially Luxian purple. That one is like a true bright, vibrant purple, what my hair looks like when it's lit properly and everything, and it's glorious and I really, really like it. Plus there's also this really nice Dreadful Visage color, which is just a super, super pale color tone, and I think it's gonna work good.
Is that a skin tone?
I think it might be intended as a skin tone. It's definitely...
Workshop's naming conventions continue to be obtuse.
It's really weird, but I do think it's meant to be a flesh tone, like an undead flesh tone with a purple undertone. And I love that because that gives it a little bit of a bruised effect, so I'm expecting to like see this used as like a glaze or a shade a lot more than maybe as a like individual color by itself. There's also a just lot of additional flesh tones in this lineup as well. Normally with the current contrast lineup, all the flesh colors lean a little bit more towards a darker color tone, which I really like and has given some really fun opportunities, but I do want something that's a bit more peachy sometimes. And in this lineup, we're getting some, and I'm very, very hyped. There's just so much in this contrast color. I could really just basically point at every single color and go, I want that one and that one and that one. I probably will be getting every single color, but we aren't just getting new contrast colors. No, 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 no. We're actually getting 7 new shades as well, all in this very like muted, ethereal, undead color palette. There's a lot of blues, purples, greens, like pinky tones that lean a little bit more fleshy. I really like the shades that are coming out. I expect them to be really sought after, and I want them. I want them all. Now, we are getting one more thing from Citadel Color Labs, and this is actually the thing I'm the most hyped about because I currently do not like the Corax White Spray Primer from Citadel. I think it's terrible. Now, I have gotten some good instances out of it, but the majority of the time that I try to use Corax White, it just is not great. However, they have a new color coming out called White Scars, and it is designed to be more like Wraithbone and Greyseer, where it's intended to work with contrast paint, which means that I'm expecting it to have a little bit more of a satin finish to it, which I love, and I'm hoping this works as just a nice flat white to put underneath my contrast paints and get the true color and vibrancy out of them. I'm very much looking forward to everything that's coming out in July. I hope it's rather early in July and not at the end, but regardless, I will be picking up probably all of it. It's that time of the video where I interrupt to tell you about my Patreon and to let you know that we just added a Discord server, which all tiers get access to. So if you're wanting a way to chat with me, share with me your projects, or just tell me what board games you're playing, definitely make sure to check the link below and check out my Patreon. I want to talk about Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires because I've been waiting for it. I know you've probably been waiting for it. We've all been waiting for it. It's the game mode that we've all been wanting, and we actually have a little bit more information about specifically what is coming in it. First of all, we know that we are getting all 86 legendary lords if you happen to have all of the games purchased. It's really dependent on what you own. But
I do!
I do as well, which means that I am going to be able to run both my prince and Emperor with Karl Franz, but also my lovely Lady Silostra, because frankly, I love her and I just want to see how they've updated her. I love having the Bretonnian Knight as my little guardsman. It's just amazing. And frankly, I want to be able to play as the Von Karsteins, as well as a plethora of other lords that I've not actually played in Total War Warhammer 2. Really, I'm just excited to see this mode come out with everybody available. And if you are interested in it, you should definitely check it out because there's a beta coming this August. In that beta, we are also getting Be'lakor as a new legendary lord with a brand new faction tied to him, which is pretty cool. If you enjoyed him in the base game as it released and you wanted to be able to play as him, or you're just a big fan of that really badass model that they came out with recently, now you can actually see him in game and control him and have him slaughter his enemies for you. Now, we are also going to be seeing some of these legendary lords that you might be familiar with moving locations a little bit on the map, which should come as no surprise. It's going to be a much larger map. They've added a lot of different factions. They've expanded some of the factions that were previously in the game to be a lot more expansive than they once were, so they are going to need to address that. So expect a few things to change location-wise. I don't think this is really going to be that big of a deal personally, but I know some people are like, oh man, I really hope that X still starts next to X because I had a really glorious plan of attack through that. Who knows if those are going to still be viable, but I think it's going to be fun to explore. We are also going to be getting 8-player multiplayer with simultaneous turns in this particular mode, which is great. Now you do get that in the just standard Mortal Empires version of the game with the campaign, but seeing it in multiplayer is really, really cool. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing a variety of different YouTubers hopefully tackle this game with their friends and just have a grand old time with a long format campaign, because I think it would be a lot of fun. Now, there is one thing else that I want to talk about with these updates, despite the fact that there were a variety of other ones, and I'll definitely put a link to the article describing everything that's going to be coming in the description below. But the last thing I want to talk about are the sea lanes, because this is how Creative Assembly is helping us get across this gigantic map, because it's going to be huge, without just teleporting us from one edge of the map to the other. And I think what the sea lanes are going to be, because they've only sort of described them loosely, we haven't actually seen what it's going to be, but my expectation is that you can already slow people down in the oceans with the vortexes and stuff like that. That means that they should be able to go ahead and speed up the players in the oceans as well. Instead of applying a fraction to their movement speed, instead apply a multiplier. I think we're going to get like 3 times speed, which is going to allow people to just get across the oceans faster without it being a straight teleport like they've described. If that is the case, I'm actually quite excited, and I'm hoping it's going to be as cool as it sounds in my head, but we'll have to wait until August for the beta to come out to really see what it's going to be like. Now, the beta is going to be lasting until they feel like the game is ready, but it sounds like it's going to be absolutely playable at that point. And if you have the game, you'll be able to jump right in and just get playing, start going up against your friends, conquering the world as you see fit, which is really all I wanted from the game in the first place. We have some action figures to talk about, some glorious, glorious Orky action figures, because JOYTOY continues to wow me, and we have a whole variety of new items coming out from them, and honestly a whole bunch that I hadn't seen previously that are now currently up for pre-order and I absolutely want. But we need to start by talking about the orcs, because they are frankly my favorite. I absolutely love the flesh tone that they put on them. It reminds me precisely of what I do on my orcs, and I absolutely love it because it genuinely looks like they put like Plague Bearer's flesh down first, threw Bealton shade over top, and then did a dry brush with a little bit more of a yellow. It's just so stunning. Also, the level of detail on these figures just continues to blow my mind. I love all of their different head options. The commandos in particular are great. I especially love the guy with the beanie. I don't feel like you see that very often outside of maybe a couple of models in the lineup. So actually seeing it as an action figure with that like look just delights me to no end. Now, we aren't just getting the orcs, as much as I would love to keep talking about them and describing how perfect I think that they all are, but we are also getting some new biker models, which we've not seen before either. And we're getting some Ultramarines as well as some Black Templar, and frankly, the Black Templar look really, really cool. Now, I am a little bit surprised that of all of the factions and chapters that they could have chosen for a Space Marine biker unit to introduce first with, like, I get why they did Ultramarines, but why not White Scars, guys? Come on, like, give me the White Scars, because I just hope that they do something even grander and bigger for the White Scars, because that is kind of their thing, and I just want it to be glorious. I think it could look really, really cool. We also got to look at a few more Space Wolf figures, which is the last time that we actually talked about JOYTOY. And this time we're getting some characters. We're getting Ragnar, who looks amazing. His like angry screaming face, just fantastic. And we're also getting Bjorn the Fell-Handed. I love the look of this dreadnought. Like, we've seen some dreadnoughts from them before coming out for, I think, both the Ultramarines as well as the Blood Angels, possibly Black Templar, and possibly Imperial Fists. I can't remember now. There's been a lot of releases and or pre-orders, but we've not seen too much for the Space Wolves yet in regards to dreadnoughts, and seeing Bjorn is fantastic. Like, the extra level of detail on his dreadnought, they just did such a great job, and I'm very curious to see this one in real life.
Does JOYTOY not have a Slaneshian vibe to it?
A little bit. It's got a little bit of a Slaneshian vibe. It does. Moving over to Necromunda, we have a brand new model to talk about, and it's not for Ash Wastes. Nope, it's just for the standard Necromunda box, and frankly, it looks amazing because it's a Delac Psyker, and I really like these guys. They're very Bioshock in their aesthetic, in my opinion, because it's a lot of sort of undersea vibes. The giant head is amazing on this particular Psyker. It's just so bulbous, but the thing that I like the most about this particular figure, and I'm very curious to see the unpainted version, are his bulging eyeballs. I don't know if it's just the delightful paint job that whoever did this model put on there, or if those eyes are absolutely that large and bulging, but I love it. It just looks so cool. Plus, he has a super rad cape. I always like the sort of floating guys and how they end up doing that to make them look like they're levitating without it actually being one of those really obnoxious, like, clear plastic peg things that I absolutely hate on models because they never stick on them correctly and they frankly break all of the time. So whenever we have somebody who's floating and doesn't have one of those, I absolutely love it. I think this one will be really cool. You can pre-order it soon from Forge World. Cool Mini or Not recently announced their newest game, Cyberpunk 2077 Gangs of Night. And it looks pretty cool. It's coming to Kickstarter starting June 21st at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you like Cool Mini or Not, if you like CD Projekt Red, and you like Cyberpunk, you might want to mark your calendars for this one. But we've learned a little bit more about the game with their most recent trailer announcing the actual date for the Kickstarter. And I want to talk about some of the things that we learned. It looks like there are going to be 4 gangs that are going to be part of the core game: the Maelstrom, the Valentinos, the Voodoo Boys, and the Tiger Clans, which I think is the one that excites me the most because I just really like their aesthetic. Although the Voodoo Boys are really cool looking too. Really, all of them are. But those are the 4 main ones that we're getting. Now, because this is a Kickstarter game, I do expect to see other gangs maybe either as add-ons or possibly stretch goals to expand out the universe a bit more. We also have seen some of the other minis that are going to be coming in the game, which represent some of the jobs that you might be hiring as you're building up your armies, specifically the solos, the techies, and some of the net runners, which might be characters that you recognize from the city as you were playing Cyberpunk 2077 when that originally released. We also saw with the trailer what some of the actions you'll be able to take during the gameplay actually are, and I think they look pretty standard for this type of game. You can recruit your army as well as hired muscle, which seems to be where all the really cool characters are, like all the ones that you would have had named in the game that you honestly, well, some of them don't last very long, but I think they're going to be here in this game, and hopefully you'll keep them alive this time. Plus, it looks like you're going to be able to smuggle black market weapons, which looks really cool, as well as uncovering buried secrets, which is the thing that intrigues me the most. And I wonder if that's where some of the more narrative elements of the game are really going to come into play, with maybe the hacking and uncovering those secrets and that kind of stuff. As well, of course, there's going to be some combat because, of course, there's always combat in these types of games, and it looks pretty standard with a little bit of unique dice. And frankly, I really like the look of this one. I don't know if it's something that I will specifically be backing, but it has my interest, and I'll be keeping an eye on it as we learn more information. All right, that has been it for this week in hobby news. I think the thing that I'm most excited about, if it's not obvious, is the new contrast colors. And frankly, July cannot get here fast enough. I really just want to get my hands on them. But I'd like to know what you are most interested in from this week's hobby news, so please leave me a comment down below. Before I head out, I want to go ahead and give a huge thank you to my patrons for making it so content like this can continue to happen. Without your guys' support, we wouldn't be doing this, so thank you very, very much. I have been Angela, and I hope you have a wonderful hobby night.